Hey yo, what is up? I hope this video finds you well, and we are back again today on the BZ-176 Tier 8 Premium heavy tank from the Chinese line. This is going to be, it's no secret anymore. Most people have figured this out. This tank is probably going to be one of the loot box tanks for Christmas. There is, everything is building up to that, and I think you can make an educated guess that this is probably going to be one of the loot box tanks. And the Chinese Tech Tree heavy tanks are going to be released sometime over Christmas or New Year 2023. Now I've already made a video about this tank maybe a month ago or so, but I think we are now at the final stages, and we can say that the final stats have already been decided, and this tank is going to make it with these changes in mind. Now there have been some changes, including to the engine horsepower and the top speed, or the boost on the top speed on the boosters have been changed as well as gun depression has been changed slightly. So let's go ahead and talk a bit about this before we discuss about some little secret that we're going to reveal in this video about the BZ. I don't think anyone's noticed this yet. I have mentioned it, but I don't know if it is going to work in the way I think it's going to work. But let's cover this tank starting from now. First of all, of course, the hit points of this tank, 1550 hit points on this heavy tank. It is a really let's talk about the way it looks first. Okay, it is really sexy looking. The looks are appealing. It has a menacing look. It's got the 9 rocket boosters on each side. It looks like there is some kind of copium cage here. It is not a copium cage. It looks more like a storage basket on the bustle or the back of the turret. There is some infrared lights, one for the gunner perhaps, one for the commander, and then there is another scope here out probably for the commander or driver or whoever is on the turret. This is an oscillating turret gun. The gun works like one of the Panzer Kampfwagen, or it works like an Italian AMX, where the whole breech of the gun is going to oscillate together with the barrel of the gun. So this whole piece, this whole thing is actually one piece. The gun all the way to the back here, this thing is going to oscillate up and down, so it's going to look a little bit weird that way, but we've seen a lot more weirder tanks. There is also a Dushka, a machine gun pointing towards the back. Again, I made this joke before. It's probably pointing towards the back to shoot at your own teammates. It's going to be shooting at your deserters. That's what it's for. But yeah, 1550 hit points. The engine has 600 horsepower. The old stat has 1200 horsepower when you have the boosters on, but on the final stats it's going to have actually 1500 horsepower, so significantly more horsepower with your boosters on. From 1200 it's been buffed to 1500, so that is one of the major changes. The power to weight ratio still remains the same, 10.51 without the boosters. Really slow, cumbersome heavy tank without boosters. With boosters, totally transforms and becomes a light tank with a 21.02 power to weight ratio. The speed on this tank, 30 going forwards, 15 in reverse on standard mode. This makes it pretty slow on standard mode. but there is a change on boosters. Boosters used to be 39 kilometers an hour going forward and 2 in reverse, but the new stat is with boosters 52 kilometers an hour going forward and 2 in reverse. So basically you can't go in reverse with this tank. It is more of a forward going tank, especially when you have these bad boys fired up, the Terpskis or the boosters. When you fire it up 52 kilometers an hour to go forward on 21 power to weight ratio. So very quick power to weight ratio to get you to 52 kilometers an hour, basically light tank speeds. How many number of boosters? It has 4 boosters, so you can use the boosters 4 times on the BZ-176. The boosters last for 10 seconds duration, so for 10 seconds you can basically shift from one flank to the other, or at least make it 3/4 the way through very easily with the boosters on. So you can switch positions basically 4 times, ambush someone, switch positions, ambush someone, switch positions, do it 4 times, easily do 4,000 damage maybe, I don't know. But yeah, we'll talk about the gun in a minute. The booster reload time is 5 seconds, so you can boost, get it turned on, run it for 10 seconds, and then cool down for 5 seconds, and then turn on the boosters again if you wanted to. The hull traverse 30.25 degrees. Basically it is not super agile, but not completely slow either. The hull armor 240 frontally, but you can see it's, if you look at the lower plate, even the lower plate has 250, 270. Very hard to pen this, even if you have 220 millimeters of penetration. Very hard to penetrate this. You can shoot at the lower plate where you will have a higher chance of penetrating. You can see here with 220 penetration, I can have about 70-80% chances of penetrating the lower plate. At an angle, still pretty good chances, about 50% penetration, but the lower plate itself, when it's angled, very hard to penetrate. This is very thick armor and the top part is sloped, so anything on top and the lower plate is pretty hard to penetrate. If you have to go for the lower plate. You can see the lower plate is divided into 2 sections here, a lower plate and a lower plate. The super lower plate is the one you need to be aiming for, and yeah, that's going to be at least 180 plus penetration. The turret itself 250 penetration, very interesting here, but it is sloped, so you're going to have equivalent of 300 plus millimeters of thickness. Pretty difficult to go through. What I wanted to share with you, which is actually a little bit of a secret here, not a lot of people have noticed, actually nobody has noticed. I have brought this up in my first video on the BZ-176. If you notice, this tank actually has 4 tracks. 4 tracks, yes, like the Object 279E. It has 4 tracks. Is it going to be trackable though? That is my question. Are these separate entities, or are you going to be able to one-shot track this tank, or is it going to have some kind of mechanic like the Yo tank that you can't completely disable, because you can track one track and the other track still works. If you look at these tracks, you can clearly see this is 2 tracks on each side. 2 tracks on each side. If I manage to detrack this tank, will it detract both the tracks and render this tank useless, disable the tank? Can I track this tank, or will it work like a Yo tank? This is the main question that I wish it could be answered right now. I have asked and I've not gotten any answers yet. Will it have a tracking mechanic like the Yo tank? This is very important because this will determine if this tank is going to be impossible to track or not, unstoppable or not. That is what I want to know. Let's move on and talk about the gun, the last part about the gun. This is a premium tank, which means it only comes with one gun, and the one gun is a 160mm, kind of a derpy gun because you have two choices of ammunition here. A 75mm 75 penetration gun with 1100 damage. Obviously this is going to be some kind of HE main gun. 75mm definitely is going to be some kind of a HE shell, and then your premium shells is going to be some kind of AP or heat because that's going to have 225 penetration with 800 damage. What gun are you going to use? What shell are you going to use? Are you going to be the derpy meme lord 1100 damage with 75 penetration, or are you going to be the sensible adult? You're going to do the guaranteed damage 800 damage with 225 penetration. Which kind of guy are you? I think a lot of people are going to be the meme lords. They want to have the hilarious gameplay with 1100 damage, so I foresee a lot of people using the HE shells with 75 penetration to do 1100 damage. This tank's accuracy 0.38. The moving dispersion is 0.20, so a typical, worse than normal heavy guns. Now normal heavy tanks around 0.36 0.35 dispersion is kind of acceptable. 0.38 makes this on the derpy side, kind of poor gun performance if you ask me. 0.20 dispersion isn't too bad. There are tanks that have worse moving dispersions. 0.20 moving dispersion penalty isn't the end of the world, but it isn't the greatest either. 10 degrees of gun depression, 20 degrees of elevation. This tank started off with 11 degrees of depression, gun depression, and they've decided that 11 is just a little bit too much, and they have limited it to 10 degrees of gun depression right now. It takes a crew of 4, so this is going to be easy to fit in your 5A crew, your 113 crew. Shouldn't be a problem. And this is what I have for you, the BZ-176. It is almost the final stats. I can't see it being switched out any longer from now until loot boxes come out. I think you are looking at the final stats. I hope you gathered enough information and took some useful info before you decide if you want to gamble on some loot boxes to pick up the BZ-176. In my opinion, I think this tank is going to be kind of hilarious, kind of unique in terms of playstyle, because you are basically going to be some kind of ambush heavy tank. Do a huge shot of either 800 damage or 1100 damage, and then go into hibernation for 24 seconds or 25 seconds or whatever time it takes you to reload, and then sneak out again, try to use 10 degrees of gun depression to do another 800 or 1100 damage, and then go back into hibernation and reload your gun again. So kind of interesting tank, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you on the next one. Bye bye.